Hello, everybody. Nice to talk with everybody. We are restarting the Space Habitat event. Today is November 9th. Right now, we have a presentation of Davi Souza. The title is A Journey from Space Analogs Extreme Environments on Earth. Davi Souza is a greenhouse specialist, also agri-tech researcher and consultant, and presenting more than 7 years. Just a moment. Presenting more than 6 years of technical expertise and experience in controlling environment agriculture sector. He is currently pursuing bachelor in electrical engineering in State University of Campinas, Unicamp, in Brazil. During this journey, he has collaborated with projects related to sustainable agriculture, indoor farming, and advanced technologies for agriculture in extreme environments on Earth and space. Okay, David, thanks so much for your interest to take part of Space Habitat event, to let our Space Habitat event more impactful. Yes, you can start your presentation. Okay, good luck.
Thank you, Professor Julio. So good afternoon to all from Brazil. It's a great pleasure to be here. For those who are joining here, welcome. I hope since now you enjoy this presentation. And for those who will be watching the recordings, I also hope that this can impact you in a way or another. Well, for me, it's super exciting to be here and making part of the Space Habitat event. So I would like to acknowledge Professor Julio on behalf of Habitat Marte and also the Mars Society Brazil that is making this happening, and also for the invitation. In this lecture, I will talk about a journey from space analogs to extreme environments on Earth. My name is Davi Souza, but for now I will not introduce myself because I have reserved a specific slide for this. And let's figure out how will be this journey during this presentation. Basically, you'll be presented to an introduction about the space sector and some current space exploration endeavors. We'll start to explore the future of humanity in space, and this will lead us to a discussion on how we can make space more sustainable. Then we will be able to talk about space technology transfer, or also called the spin-offs. And finally, we will be provided to some final remarks. Now, taking the opportunity to introduce myself once again, my name is Davi Souza. I am a Brazilian greenhouse specialist with background in electrical engineering and more than 6 years of technical knowledge and experience in the controlled environment agriculture sector. Since now, for those who want to connect, feel free to reach me out throughout email, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I have some relevant points that I would like to highlight from my journey. Everything started more than 6 years ago when I was about to finish my technician course at Federal Institute of Rio Grande do Norte, which I had the opportunity to prototype my first smart greenhouse. This has led me to the university and also make me aware of Habitat Marte. That's why I met and I know more about the activities that Professor Julio was doing in UFRN and also in Habitat Marte. Along this journey, I also had the opportunity to become an electrical engineering intern at Pink Farms, the first vertical and urban farm here in Brazil. And more recently, I had the opportunity to live during 8 years in Saudi Arabia, especially to conduct research on advanced technologies for desert greenhouse. Now I am based in São Paulo state, specifically in Campinas, pursuing my bachelor degree in electrical engineering at Unicamp. And all of this is part of my journey to positively impact people's lives with agriculture, space, technology, and innovation. So since now, I hope this presentation impacts you in a way, and I will be more than happy if somehow you can just leave this presentation with some insights, some ideas, and even a bit of motivation to pursue your mission and reach your own goals. Now, let me introduce you about how will be the future of humans in space. Of course, we cannot predict that much on how it will be exactly, but based on our current activities that are happening right now in space, we can start having some ideas on how it will be in a future habitat on the moon and Mars. So for some of those might be questioning themselves, like this can this really become a reality, or is it just a science fiction? As some of us already know, NASA is already collaborating with different countries around the world to conduct the Artemis missions, and this will not only have the goal to establish a sustainable human presence on the moon, but also this will allow humans to reach Mars and beyond. But part of these efforts, we do not have only NASA and other space agencies. We also have some space companies such as SpaceX. In 2017, if I'm not wrong, Elon Musk was able to conduct a lecture during the International Astronautical Congress, which he's mentioned that we will become multiplanetary species. And all of this is part of their endeavors that they are looking to the development of the biggest and the highest rocket in our planet, at least that we have seen until now, which is called the Starship. And as is possible also to find in the website of SpaceX, they are planning to build this rocket with capabilities to put inside of it up to 100 people on long duration interplanetary flights. And this will allow us not only there is an audio. Someone audio is okay. I will continue. This amount of people will be super important if we are aiming to establish a sustainable human presence, specifically establishing habitats on the surface of Moon and Mars, as you can see in both figures. But how we can make this feasible? I can tell you all that the only way that we can do this is together. The International Space Station is a great example of this. Along the years, the collaboration between different countries around the world has showed the potential of humanity to ensure a long-term presence in space, specifically on the low Earth orbit, or LEO. And this has allowed us to know a lot about how we will live in space. As you can see, we can talk about arts in space, we can talk about different technologies like the disruptive technologies such as augmented reality, biotechnology, bioengineering, physical exercise, psychology, growing plants in space, and also other technologies that will allow us to survive in the harshness of the space environment, such as the spacesuits, also some solar panels to generate energy, and so on. And I can tell also that a lot of efforts are being put into it. If we want to reach Mars, we should start discussing about how will be the habitation, how we can just go there and start building our home habitat, our own home in a different planet. And some of the initiatives that I decided to bring you here, the left one, the first one on the left is called Martia. This is a habitat that is proposed to be 3D printed on the surface of Mars, and is already in the phase of testing with NASA and figure out how we can really implement something like this in a surface, in an interplanetary surface. Another concept, as you can see in the middle, we have some toroidal habitats, allowing this to be integrated with some space transportation systems and make this easier to just deploy this habitat there, and making easier the construction phase of these habitats. On the perspective of electrical engineering, I want to mention briefly the technology called CRUSTY, which is our kilopower reactor, which is basically a nuclear reactor using a small area, but has a lot of capabilities, allowing the generation of higher amounts of energy in just a small technology, specifically attending the demand for small areas, the use of small areas in a space environment. But still, we have a long journey ahead. I bring you some numbers just to make you aware about the challenge that we have. So as comparison here, I bring the distance, the approximate distance between Brazil and Africa in the nearest point between these two places, the African continent. And this distance is 2.8 thousand kilometers. And if we want to reach the International Space Station, for those who are not aware, this would be faster if I'm here in Brazil, if I want to reach to Africa using an airplane, because we'll have the rocket capabilities, allowing us to arrive there faster. And the International Space Station is only 420 kilometers above us. But if we are talking about moon, these start to increase. So as you can see, we have 384,000 kilometers. And talking about time, we can talk about 3 days to reach the moon and almost 1 week to go there and return to Earth. But if we are aiming Mars, we have a higher challenge in front of us. Basically, this distance between Earth and Mars, is approximate of 54.6 millions of kilometers. And a trip to Mars, in the best scenario, would take 8 months to reach there. And a round trip, if we are considering going to Mars and returning to Earth, this might take 2 years in total. But to make all of this feasible and to achieve this, we must make space sustainable. And how we can do that? First, we need to take into account some considerations. The first thing is the food logistics. Now at the International Space Station, it's super easy and it doesn't demand too much cost to transport prepackaged, dehydrated, and or freeze-dried food, as you can see in both figures. But if we are talking about Mars, ensuring an amount of food that will allow astronauts to remain there for 2 years or to feed themselves for 2 years, the situation is totally different. And also there are some studies that I can mention here that they have realized that along the time, the nutrient content inside of this food will start decreasing. Another challenge, if we are looking to ensure our sustainable presence in space, is dealing with local food production. So if we want to ensure that the astronauts will feed themselves for long periods, and also has food with high nutritional values, we must talk about cultivating crops there in the surface of Moon and Mars to ensure some fresh and tasty food. I can tell you that some of the previous presentations here might address already my colleague Natalia. She probably mentioned with more details about the psychological benefits of having plants in space. But as you can see, this is a thing that they started already conducting research and understanding more at the International Space Station. For now, we have 2 systems operating there. The left one, as you can see, is the veggie system, and the right one is the APH, or Advanced Plant Habitat. I will not mention with more details about these systems for now, because I have some dedicated slides for them. But no matter how big is our challenge, I can tell you that we can make this happen. But first, we need to start dream. And once we dream, we can start planning. And this is exactly what NASA is doing with some concepts of a future greenhouse on Mars. As you can see on the left figure, this is a concept, the interior view of a future greenhouse, and it's coincidentally operated by one of the well-known researchers in the topic. His name is Raymond Wheeler. He's kind of the father of space farming at NASA. And in the right figure, you can see a concept of a future greenhouse inside a rocket module integrated with the habitat. Meantime, the habitat produces the environmental control capabilities to ensure the adequate amount of temperature and humidity for the plants to thrive. The plants also can ensure humans can give food to humans to survive there in space. At the same time that the plants also have some potential to remove the carbon dioxide of the atmosphere and also generate oxygen for the astronauts. And all of this can be started right now. But how? As you can see here in this diagram, we have some scientific instruments to facilitate the human space exploration. This can start from laboratory endeavors to some space flights, to some systems that are operating right now at the International Space Station. This can lead us to mission objective, functional requirements, prototyping, and testing of different models to see if they are ready to be sent to space. This is exactly what NASA called technology readiness level. But how we can make this right now? I want to dedicate this presentation specifically to the analog testing or the space analog environments here on Earth. I bring here just two examples. The first one in the top side figure, we have an extravehicular activity conducted in a volcanic region in Hawaii. And the other one is an extravehicular activity conducted by analogous astronauts in the desert of in Utah, USA. But previous than start going deeper on this topic, let me just tell you what is a space analog environment. One of the best examples that we have right now about what is a space analog environment and what we can do with this is the neutral buoyancy laboratory, or basically it's a pool that is located in one of NASA buildings. And this is an area, a pool, which is totally dedicated for astronauts to train themselves previous to conduct an extravehicular activity, which is an activity outside the International Space Station in space. So in this scenario, they are getting familiar and comfortable to conduct the activities, but also becoming aware of the risks and some challenges that will be involved in these activities. And this is a super intensive trainings that any astronaut that will conduct an extravehicular activity needs to make prior to him go to space and really go out, as you can see in the right figure, and really go out of the International Space Station to conduct a repairment or any other activity that might be necessary. But also we can start talking about what we can learn from them. We are not astronauts, at least for now, and we cannot have access to this type of pool in our reality. Of course, Abtatimat is already putting some pools at a pool in the station to conduct something similar. But basically, what I can tell you here is that we have a lot of similarities and we can learn from them. As you can see on the left side, we have a figure of Mars. This is a picture took by Curiosity rover. And the right side is the desert of Utah. Meantime, a crew was conducting an extravehicular activity there in the USA. So as you can see, we have a lot of similarities. And imagine that we can train these astronauts to go to Mars and conduct extravehicular activities on Mars, but also understand the habitat, understand the dynamics, the operation of the habitat prior here on Earth. And let me just highlight you some of the topics about what we can do with a space analog environment. This can be a place to conduct research, understand, practice, and prepare for critical aspects of crewed space missions. Most of these habitats has focused on scientific development, understand astronaut performance, test technologies, and other space-related topics for future space endeavors. This also simplifies experimentation and testing, as I mentioned about the risks, for example, of a structure on Earth before attempting to use it in space, especially because when we are dealing with the space environment, we are dealing with a critical mission, which can be a vital mission. If the astronaut does something that is wrong or something that is not planned, this could put him in risk and even make him lose his life. In general, an analog astronaut or a space analog astronaut will have a living experience in an isolated, confined, and/or extreme environment, such as deserts, for several weeks or months under the same physical, organizational, and technological restrictions. Now let me present you some of the space analog stations around the globe. From 1 to 6, just for you to have an idea, Number one, we have the Hera habitat, which is a module inside of NASA headquarters. The second one is the DMARS, which is located in the desert of Israel. The third one is HISIS. This is exactly that one that I mentioned, which is located in a volcanic region in Hawaii. The fourth and the fifth one are some space analogs that are operated by the Mars Society. The left one is the FMARS, is located in the Arctic region. And the right one, exactly what I mentioned previously, the Mars Desert Research Station, located in the desert of Utah. It's important to mention that no matter the environment, we can talk about an extreme environment with super low temperatures. And on the other perspective, we can talk about an extreme environment with super high temperatures. This can lead us to understand different nuances on how we can implement space into different scenarios, into different mission scenarios. Finally, we have the Lunaris Space Analogs, which is a space analog station located inside a bunker. But now let me take the opportunity to talk more about my experience with space analogs. I had the opportunity to be a researcher together with Professor Giulio. I was a researcher during almost 5 years in Habitat Marchi. And basically, this has showed me that growing plants in a space analog can teach us a lot about space farming. But not only space farming, but also farming on Earth. In general, Habitat Marchi is a space analog station located in Brazilian semi-arid region, specifically in the northeast region of Brazil, which is a region that faces severe droughts and high temperatures. Hopefully, this picture has a good landscape for that specific time, but there are some periods that we have plants that they are super dry and we cannot see that green environment. But the goal of Habitat is to operate as an off-grid and self-sustainable habitat. And to achieve that, it must produce its own energy, manage its own water and reuse it also, and finally produce its own food. As you can see in this big blue wall, which is the biohabitat greenhouse. Talking about the greenhouse itself, as you can see in both right pictures, the one that are in the right, that is in the right, was the first, let's say, the first version of biohabitat greenhouse, which was a dedicated area with an aquaponic system, which I will also be talking in the next slide. But this was an area of 12 square meters that allowed us to cultivate basil, lettuce, spinach, pepper, and other tomatoes and other crops that allowed us to consume this, like to have this food as a meal during the missions. And this has allowed Habitat Marchi to get recognized worldwide as the first space analog station to keep and ensure a regular food production. And considering the potential and like the opportunities that we could have with this research, me, Professor Giulio, and other researchers that we were collaborating, we were able to expand this area to 160 square meters, applying and deploying a second aquaponic system using, at the end, two different irrigation techniques, hydroponic techniques. The right one is ebb and flow technique. The left one is DWC, or deep water culture, and all of them allowing us to understand how to operate a future greenhouse on Mars. And this has taught us a lot about sustainability and resource use efficiency, and how this could be translated not only to a semi-arid region, but also to space, such as we can close the loop for plant irrigation while meeting the regular food demand. We can reuse the water. The aquaponic system is basically is a system that allows us the cultivation of fish and plants, reusing the poop of the fishes that are present in the water to give nutrients for the plants. And this is a system that can save up to 90% of water. And at the same time, we can also use this fish to feed ourselves. And this is very important when we are looking to overcome limitations in the water-food nexus. And as I mentioned, this has allowed us to conduct the development to develop many protocols and routines related to food cultivation. These are just two examples of a harvesting routine and a maintenance routine that I was there in the mission and I was able to conduct. But I'm sure that since now, like since this period, actually until now, Habitat Marte has been putting efforts to develop many other protocols that might be relevant for food production in space. And this has allowed me, using my electrical engineering background, to deploy and apply a technology to support some of our farming activities. As you can see, I was able to install a sensor inside of the biohabitat greenhouse and connect it to a monitoring case, which allowed us to have data on temperature and humidity and relative humidity, for example. And bringing other examples, it's also possible to deploy some innovative plant growth systems that will support some future space farming activities. This other example is of a space analog station located in the desert of Oman, which is a station operated by the Austrian Space Forum. And they established a partnership with a national agency in Italy that allowed them to build this tent, to deploy this tent there in this desertic region, which is basically will be destined for food cultivation, utilizing a lot of technologies, as you can see, LEDs and other timers and other technologies to cultivate specifically microgreens. And what I can tell you in general is that when we deal with extreme environments, the benefits are countless. On the left, we have a concept of a space greenhouse proposed by NASA. This could be operating on the surface of Moon, Mars, and even inside of a module of a space station. And on the right, we have an operational greenhouse in Antarctica, which has operated there for 5 years. But let me talk more about this system in Antarctica. This system called Future Exploration Greenhouse, or EDEN ISS, is a result of the EDEN initiative. Basically, this greenhouse is a container farm that they were able to send to Antarctica region near of Neil Meyer Station. And they were able to operate this greenhouse totally remotely using a lot of technologies, as you can see in the right picture, with atmosphere management systems, lighting systems, nutrient delivery systems, and monitoring systems with sort of high-tech technologies of high-techs that has been available in the market by far. And more recently, this container farm returned to Bremen in Germany, basically to the this project was an initiative of the German Space Agency, the DLR, and they bring it back to Bremen to conduct the re-engineering process and starting analyzing some of possible requirements to deploy a future greenhouse on the lunar surface. And this system would be called the EDEN Luna. So we can start waiting a lot from sort of these results, some of the results that will be coming up of the future of exploration on the moon. And what I can also tell you is that transferring space technologies to our reality on Earth is possible. Let me show you how. But first, let me make you a question. How do you imagine the future of farming? Do you think that will be sustainable, technological, efficient, with zero wastes? I took the opportunity to use some of the tools that we have available now, and I prompted to generative AI, and I asked it about the future of farming in space. And as you can see, we have sort of the things that are very similar on what we already have here on Earth. Some lighting systems, controlled environments, and this looks a very beautiful scenario. But is this sustainable and efficient reality just a space thing? What I can tell you, this is a reality here in Brazil. On the left, we have the desertification process in regions that are facing severe droughts and high temperatures. On the right, we have irrigation systems that are totally not efficient, and they are just spreading water in the surface, in the land. And this not only causes flooding, but also this decreases the productivity of the cultivars. And still, we have people that might be questioning, why are we spending money to grow crops in space if we already have all of these problems on Earth? Once again, the generative AI helped me to try to provide you some ideas about this, because space farming looks super beautiful. As you can see, we are looking to cultivate plants on the surface of Moon using the lunar soil. We already have some researchers that are dealing with that, using the Martian regolith, and so on. But I also can tell you that no matter where we are in space, plants will be our signature. Plants will be always with us. Plants is the mark that we have that will tell us and tell to our future generations that might be living in space, that will tell them that, hey, we are from Earth spaceship. And let me tell you how we can use space exploration in our benefit. Basically, space exploration, together with its research and technologies, is already more than present in our daily lives. I bring you a great example on the farming sector, on the controlled environment agriculture sector. On the left, we have an operator inside of a greenhouse that has a tablet that allows him to manage the greenhouse systems and subsystems, to monitor some of the environmental variables inside of the greenhouse. In the same perspective, in a similar way, we have an astronaut that using his tablet to conduct the management of the activities that he's doing, specifically on research at the APH there in the International Space Station. And what I can tell you is that the space spin-offs represents the point of intersection between Earth and space. And we have the power to change it, because we can use the knowledge from Earth to space, but at the same time, we can use the knowledge from space and use it back to Earth. This figure is very interesting because I really like it that they use the same illustration in different scenarios. This system is called Biopod. It was developed by Interstellar Lab, which is a company, a space company that are putting a lot of efforts, efforts on sustainable human presence in space, but also they are using this into some scenarios, into some catastrophic scenarios that might come in the future on Earth, even if we are considering the climate change effects. But this can allow us not only to apply this type of system on Earth, but also on the Moon, and in the future on Mars. And how can you use this knowledge in the best way of it? Let me introduce you one term called controlled environment agriculture, but not the sector, specifically what we can do with a controlled environment agriculture. And this figure represents super good what we can achieve with it. On the left, we have the environment that can be manipulated to provide adequate temperature, adequate relative humidity, adequate amounts of CO2 concentration, and allowing plants to grow no matter where we are. On the controlled perspective, we can have a manual control that might be conducted by the astronaut, but also we can start talking about control systems with automation capabilities and even AI capabilities. And finally, the agricultural activity, because to grow plants, we need resources such as light, water, substrates, and seeds. And all of this together has been put into efforts along the years. I want to show you this example of biomass production chamber or BPC. The system has operated at NASA since 1992. Of course, they have stopped some of the operations for now, but this was a system that was developed at the 90s. And it's considered one of the first vertical farming systems ever. And this was applied in space research. As you can see, it's basically a vertical farm with some hydroponic modules, monitoring capabilities, and also environmental control systems, allowing them to ensure a modularity factor that could lead to the cultivation of soybeans, to the cultivation of potatoes. But now at the International Space Station, what we have, I already mentioned to you, the veggie and the advanced plant habitat. Veggie on the left is basically a space garden. It uses the same environment of the International Space Station, but at the same time, it uses LED lighting to orient the plant growth using the phototropism response of the plant. This was the system that allowed astronauts to feed themselves with the first space-grown vegetables there in the International Space Station. In the middle, we have the advanced plant habitat, which is a high-fidelity technological system, allowing researchers to control all of the environmental variables inside of this environment, and also operate this remotely here on Earth. This is a system that has LED customization and also more than 160 sensors and cameras. More recently, we have also started to have some companies putting efforts on this. As you can see here, we have the X-Root system, which was developed by Sierra Space, which is basically a growth chamber, some sort of things similar to Veggie, using LED lightings, but they were able to install an aeroponic irrigation method inside of the systems to see how the plants will grow using aeroponic into the microgravity environment. And as you can see, one of the figures, we are already having a lot of good results with the root growth and development. And this has allowed us along the years to move into new technologies and at least new applications of the same technologies. One of them is the LED lighting. Now we are able to customize the light compositions and optimize plant response in different conditions and environments. Now we can select if we want to provide a green LED, the green spectrum of light, red, blue. We can choose the intensities of each one of these spectra, and also select how long it will be available for the plants, the photo period of it. And this is super important when we are dealing with different plants, because each plant will react differently for a specific light receipt. Another very recent topic of research is microgreens. NASA started to put in effort on this because when we are dealing about ensuring sustainable human presence, we also need to deliver high nutritional food for the astronaut, as I previously mentioned. And the microgreens is enabling the cultivation of super nutritious food with a short cycle and under LED lighting, and also using small areas for it. As you can see on the left figure, microgreens can reach up to 10 centimeters, maybe 15 centimeters. And NASA is already conducting research on the operational perspective to see what will be necessary during the harvesting activities, specifically on microgravity, and they started studying some of the reactions of different cultivars, different species of microgreens using LED lighting. And as I previously presented, the biopod, which is basically the best of all of these that I already showed you. The system ensure modularity, advanced hardware, AI-enabled control, and everything within a closed-loop greenhouse system. This can be a modular system with expandable capabilities, allowed to be put inside of a rocket and be sent to space without a problem, with low mass requirements. And as you can see on the right picture inside of it, we have some shelves with LED lighting, with hydroponic system, sort of similar thing that we are already having here on Earth with some indoor farming systems. And we can also highlight here many other contributions that is ensuring sustainable and efficient farming systems in our planet. But I want to briefly present you the current vertical farming sector, which is allowing us to enhance and increase the yield into a small area, into a small volume. And this can be allowed you with all of these efforts from the biomass production chamber, LED lighting, hydroponics, and so on. And this is just one example of a company called Plenty Farms, but we are already having this all around the world. And I want to finish this presentation asking you Are you ready to take the next step on your journey? Let me present you some of the things that I have been doing along my journey. I started at Habitat Marte doing research on sustainable food production in the semi-arid region, which is a very extreme region. As you can see in the mid picture, I was conducting this cleaning activity with 45 degrees Celsius outside. It was super hot. But I also was able to utilize this knowledge and utilize my background from electrical engineering to start talking about indoor farm in urban environments. Specifically, when I was an electrical engineering intern at Pink Farms, I was able to not only do research on LED lighting, but also on electrical systems for vertical farms. And this is super important if we are considering that this is a farm in a big urban area located in São Paulo capital here in Brazil, which is the biggest urban center that we have in our country. And we can also consider that this can be an environment with super bad atmospheric conditions, with higher rates of carbon concentration in the atmosphere and a lot of pollution. This also can be considered an extreme environment. On the other hand, this has allowed me to go to desert and look for advanced technologies for desert greenhouses, looking on solar panels and also small scale greenhouses to conduct research and understand sort of the plant reactions to the environment and to the differences between systems and how this will impact on the plants. This was a research that I conducted in collaboration with Red Sea Farms at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. And what I want to mention to you right now is a very new thing that I'm super excited for all of this, that from the next year, from the first semester of next year, as a result of my collaboration together with Agritecture, we are launching the first space farming course on Earth, with the goal to make space farming accessible to farmers on Earth. This collaboration has started in the beginning of this year, and hopefully by the next year, in the first semester, the course will be available for all of the farmers in the world to use the space farming knowledge in their benefits to grow their own plants on their own farm. So thank you very much for your attention. I want to finish also with a sentence that I have been talking since 2021. It's basically that we are now open to a new horizon of technological deliverables that can support sustainability while reducing the negative impacts of climate change. Space exploration not only generates knowledge for human living off Earth, but also help us to find solutions to societal problems and inspires people to act for a more humanized and sustainable society. With that, I want to once again thank you all for those who have watched the full presentation and that will be watching later once the presentation is available on the YouTube. And I also want to make a final request. If you have watched it and if you want to contribute for me to conduct better presentations in the future, I will be more than happy to receive your feedback in this provided form, as you can see in this QR code. I will also be sharing the link of the form on the chat here. And thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to have you in this journey to make space farming accessible and also make agriculture more sustainable for all. Thank you.
Okay, Davi, congratulations for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm open for questions if you have questions. If there are Brazilian people that want to ask questions in Portuguese, I can address this in Portuguese and I can translate at the same time without a problem.
No questions from me, but thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yes. Really outstanding presentation. I really like it, Davi. Very good.
Thank you, Professor.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Congratulations for your lecture. I am a big fan. And when you are wonder to launch your course, and have a lot like one prerequisite or not?
Thank you, Luisa, for your question. Thank you very much for be watching and for the whole support during this journey. What I can tell you is that we are planning to launch this course in the first semester of 2024. We do not have a specific date for now, but we are already working to start sharing some free content in advance to make people aware of the course, and just keep yourself updated. Not only on you already followed me on social media, but not only on social media, but if you are interested to check the course, this is a course that will be part of the Agritecture Designer platform and will be available in Agritecture website. So basically, they are making this platform accessible for those who are only interested to look on space farming. But this platform is basically a software that allow farmers to plan their own farm, like to make the cost plannings and also like the financial planning and the structural planning of their farms. And this will be kind of a supportive content, supportive material for people that are also inside of the platform, that they can use it the planning process of their farm. But also this will be available for general people, for space enthusiasts, and people that are interested to look for space farming.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you, Danilo, for your feedback on the chat. Thank you for your presence too. Thank you for the presence of all. And if you have any other question, I'm here to address that. Otherwise, I think it will happen another presentation right now, Professor. Or you are muted.
Okay, I will conclude the recording.